What's up, guys? The most important and crap-giving holiday in the world is Autism Awareness Day, hands down. You can take all that Christmas, Thanksgiving, Independence, Easter garbage and put it in a much lower tier category. Yes, those holidays are cool and all, but they don't compare. The majority of people I will meet in my whole life should at least have heard of autism. Most of them are common sense enough to accept that other people will be different from them. If you are not aware of autism and you're just a loser that thinks everybody in the whole world needs to operate in a similar manner, you, my friend, will proudly be crowned Emperor Dumb Shit. What I'm basically saying here is, within the past month, I have gone to 3 autism groups for the purpose of trying to meet new friends. Because more guys need to be aware of the greatness of our God! Me. There are so many people in this world that will never know who I am, so if you have met me, you are a lucky one. My good homeboy Drake was wanting to know how these autism groups went down, but it was too much to just type out through text, so I decided I would just make an episode answering his questions instead. That's why this episode is labeled as Dedicated Idea, just like 120 was. We'll consider this a sequel to Standard Edition Autism, which is a pretty good one. Go check it out. But I went to a group on July 14th, 18th, and August 1st, and it did meet some pretty cool guys. But my main mission on finding a girlfriend has not quite been accomplished yet. But we are getting closer. It's just, I don't live in the real world, you know what I mean? I exist, sure, but I don't give any damned dicks about society because the real world sucks. I pretty much live in my own imaginary world now and forever, which is kind of the definition of autism after all. However though, recently I have been willing to take a few new steps out in the world again, as long as they're only ever baby steps and I have backup. The first group I went to was at this coffee shop very close to where this video is being recorded right now. Coming in, I did not know what to expect, and to tell you the truth, all 3 of these groups started off pretty mediocre, but they got better towards the end. My mom and I were the first people to arrive, and then other Aspies started walking in. Not long, I noticed a face I hadn't seen in 4 years before he even got in the building. My favorite person from my school had arrived. The one who punched that girl really hard in the back for being mean and annoying. Oh yeah, good times. He's the only guy from my school that I've seen in person since the last time I was there on May 16th of 2019. He didn't recognize me at first because he doesn't remember much, but after a while he did say he remembered me. God bless. There was this big conference room upstairs where we all gathered to just talk, and I hadn't even noticed we had started yet until like minutes later, because I was kind of expecting there to be some sort of like direction. Like Craig would just sit us all down and ask each individual person about themselves, and then things would just unfold from there. Craig was the guy that owned the coffee shop, and he was really just there to greet us. We pretty much went upstairs whenever we felt like, and people were even getting up and leaving the room whenever they pleased. Later that night, my dad had said that that's kind of how these autism groups go, and that nobody's really in charge, which I totally accept. But because everyone was talking at once, it was really hard for me to get my ideas out. But at least I know what to expect when I return this Friday, which by the time you're seeing this video, it may have already happened. The first truly noteworthy thing to happen was when this 24-year-old guy named Zach, different from the 30-year-old Zach that I work with, and might even be spelled different as well, had stated he had been smoking since age 12, so half his life. And this other guy is like, "Where are you from?" And he's like, "Manford, bro." And I just thought that was funny. Manford is a different place in Oklahoma than where this coffee shop was located, by the way. But my main focus was on these 3 dudes that were all slightly younger than me. One had a birthday in late July, so if we're talking about today, they are 22, 20, and 19. They were fun to hear from. And the 20-year-old said he actually went to the same school that I did, along with my best bud. Oh lord, here we go again with that damn place. He had brought up this guy that I already knew about, who has a pretty interesting name, if I'm being honest. But I shouldn't be pointing out names, so I apologize. The guy he's referring to was kinda stupid, and I wasn't a big fan of him. But he was tall as damn. He was like 6'6". I'm 6'3", and like 9 times out of 10 I feel like I'm a giant compared to most of the other people around me. This kid was 2 grades below me, and he had some pretty bad issues. He was a musician, I believe, or something like that, because he would often carry around this slick-ass red guitar that he didn't let anyone touch. If you did touch it, he would probably threaten to hurt or slap you. That's not a sign of good friendship. Like, what the hell's your problem? I mean, I get it. You're sensitive to people touching your stuff. I get it. But hurting people over something so small is the incorrect approach. The guy that I spoke to back in July said that the kid did let him touch it one time. I'm happy for your brother. I really am, but no one is jealous. And also, what kind of Waller shit is it when this guy is allowed to touch your guitar, but hardly anyone else is? Like, I don't follow that logic. This tall-ass 6'6" kid being a bully would be bad enough for me to bitch about, but it gets even more ridiculous. For whatever reason, the kid left his guitar on the table and went to go somewhere else for a second. That was wise, right? The guitar was in another kid's way, so he just slightly pushed it out of his space, and the kids saw it and they started throwing fists. Okay, you dumb urethra, let's get one thing straight here. If you don't want people touching your guitar, don't put your guitar in other people's way. Like, come on, is there really no, like, case you can put that thing in and then put it in a safe room somewhere else? If this continues, one of these days, that guitar is gonna get slammed against the wall. I swear to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph all at once. And the guy that I just recently met, you know, whose birthday was in July, he said the dude is apparently a father now. That's right, he had his kid when he was about 19 or 20, very recently. Not the smartest decision in the world, but if he doesn't have the same temper issues that he did when he was a teenager, then I guess it's fine, maybe? I don't know, man. 19 is damn young for that sort of deal. But this is coming from a guy that'll never be capable of raising kids in his life, so who really knows? It's still too young, though. So yeah, we talked about other things at this group, but we need to move on to the other two. One more thing to state, and that's that the 20-year-old I spoke to is aware of the channel now. That's right, I know this guy for an hour and a half, and already he's worthy of hearing about the scope. This is something I rarely did at my school, and it had to be someone with like at least 98% of my trust, at minimum. Not only that, but I would have shared the channel with other people had it not been for this damny weather that was arriving pretty close to the point where we were going to leave anyway. But I do have my chance to do it tomorrow. Okay, finally we're on the next autism group, and it was at this gaming place. This one was by far the most boring and one I will probably not be returning to, unless the next ladies' night is something other than a bunch of 30s and 40s moms. They had a bunch of these gaming PCs hooked up there, which is already pretty dorky for my liking. If you want true gaming, you stick with my homeboys who created the plumber and the elf. There was a Nintendo 64 there, but we'll get to that in just a minute. I guess one thing that they had that most people probably don't in their own home was this like flying or driving simulator thing. It had like 3 huge monitors right next to each other, so you can get like a very good angle. That was kinda neat, I guess, but I didn't get the chance to try it out. My stepmom did though. There was also a group of children there, and this is the part of the video where I start getting pessimistic towards the minors. I'm not gonna pick on any specific child, but I am gonna slightly trash talk children in general. If you are sensitive to that, then you can skip to here in the video. My fingers aren't even. But this is my channel, and I don't bear that many guys under the age of like 12, so this is gonna happen. There was probably a good dozen to 15 little kids in the back who were all playing something and were all teammates. They had this adult that was their coach to help them with anything they needed. And you gotta give this guy credit for all the training and patience he has to go through in order to monitor 15 little shitter idiots all at once. These kids probably range from like 7 to 9, and you can hear their coach from back there saying stuff like, no one needs to be making remarks on how well their teammates play, and stuff like that. One kid straight up shouts shut up to another kid, and the coach is like, hey! None of that! I'm just over there thinking like, kick ass, you tell that loser. Karma's a bitch, ain't it, kid? But it was becoming clear the most fun I was going to have tonight was watching these folks play Wheel of Fortune on the 64. So I did just that. And once they left, I played a different game that the place had for the system. They introduced themselves and I introduced myself, telling them I'm 23 years old. They were much older than I was expecting though. The guy playing the game was 34, and his older brother watching him was 39. These guys both had autism, and not long later their dad came to pick them up. They told us they go there often and that they bring their own N64 games because the people there recognize them. Now these guys were 30-something men with disabilities, and from the looks of it, neither of them knew how to drive since their dad came to pick them up. I could be wrong, but more than likely that would be the case. And it brings me so much peace to know that if there's something you don't have to do by the time you're 30-freaking-9, then you never have to do it. It's possible they've attempted driver's ed in the past, or maybe not, maybe they didn't want to. Either way, it's fine. For a while, I've been worried about how long I can wait to drive before it gets ridiculous. But remember, Kale, that's only how other people think, and it doesn't matter how other people think, you live your life. This makes me more than happy to announce that there is a 93.276% chance that I will never get my driver's license in my whole life. In other words, it's not gonna happen. Yes, I know, yes, you're too kind, I know, don't even mention it. Time for the last of the groups, and man, I'm getting worn out with recording. This one was at a tie-dye place, in which I did not come to color shirts, but to just talk to people. This one actually did have a decent looking chick there, but unfortunately she was gone before we could get her attention. We did however find this one girl, two in fact, that are now friends, but not of the lover type. My stepmom went over to one of them because she looked like she didn't know what to do, and she told her she can hang with us. I wanted to acknowledge her, but holy god, the ghost! I was so anxious I was shaking. I wasn't afraid of the other two groups, but this time around the music was so loud I could not hear the people that were right in front of me, and I do believe that was what was triggering it. At the beginning, there was a man that told us we could write down any ideas or recommended improvements, and my stepmom wrote on a slip of paper, quieter music or no music at all, and just put it in the bucket. Please accept that. Thankfully though, the girl we met said she actually did volunteer there, and she said we could go into the back room, which is where I stayed for the rest of the time we were there. They had a bootleg NES Classic and a Nintendo 64 like the last place had. I'm not usually one to be supporting bootlegs, but this one had legitimate games on it, and the controller is basically the same. So as long as I'm playing these games the same way people would play them back in the day, then it's really just fine. I might even consider buying one of these homebrews so I can playtest more games. But anyway, the most fun I had at the tie-dye place was playing games instead. A little while later, a big man with a beard had walked in, and shortly after that, so did two guys that weren't exactly dark-skinned, they were more like a light tan. Not that the color matters. If they kind people, we good. If not, then beat it. But they were kind people though, and one of them was like, we can leave y'all alone, we just need someone to smoke. I told them that I didn't mind, but my stepmom might. But I don't really think it matters. I wasn't exactly sure why they had to smoke indoors, but whatever, you do y'all thing. Later though, the two guys had left, and then my stepmom came back into the room, and she told me they had been smoking pot, and that the room smelled disgusting. I didn't even notice, because my sense of smell is not that good to begin with. I just thought they were smoking cigarettes. Believe it or not, on this Saturday the 5th, I actually returned to this place, but it wasn't for a group, it was to hang out with my new friends. My dad was skeptical about me going at first though because of the drugs. It wasn't until I returned that I noticed there was a marijuana dispensary on the lower floor. But I'm sure the guys smoking the other night had their cards, so it's fine. I'm not one to be getting into their business to see if they're following the law or not, as long as it doesn't negatively impact me or anyone else, which it did not. I was telling my dad that there being a marijuana dispensary doesn't immediately equate to there just being thugs chilling in the area. We all have phones. If any of us need to call the police, we can. But we're not gonna call them if all they're doing is just smoking. And he did agree with that statement, but he just said it's not a good influence for me to be around. Look, Dad, I've already decided I'm never going to do any of that drinking or smoking or drug crap, because all that crap is lame. Nobody's going to make me do those if I don't want to. I mean, God only knows with them future girls, but I can still tell them no when it comes to that. I've already been around some pretty nasty and messed up things online. I'm not saying I'm proud for having done so, but it has happened. Anyway, goodbye.